Hi, everyone. My name is Shalhevet Schwartz, and this is Gefet on Daf Yomi, a joint project of Hadran and Yeshivat Drisha. Really just kicking off our learning in Masechet Sanhedrin, a Masechet that really deals with big questions of the justice system, of courts, of how a just society ought to look, and what is kind of fairness in the legal system that in the Torah's vision. But one of the sugyot that comes up on today's daf is a sugya that I actually think has relevance not only for questions of systemic justice, but also for our own lives, and that's the sugya of pshara, the question of when in a legal or otherwise conflict is it right to compromise, to come to some sort of position in which, on the one hand, nobody's happy, on the other hand, everybody wins a little bit. What we're going to be looking at today are two different machlokot between Rashi and Tosafot that seem like they're really just little machlokot in the parshanut of the sugya about like what particular terms are referencing, but actually together create a slightly larger picture about how each of them might think about some of these broader questions about when compromise is proper, and when, on the other hand, it seems to be some kind of injustice or unfortunate consequence that we want to avoid. So the Gemara on Daf at the end of Daf Vav Amud Bet begins with a breita in the name of Rabbi Eliezer ben Osher Rabbi Yossi Haglili. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Osher Rabbi Yossi Haglili Omer Asur Livtsoa. It is forbidden to compromise. V'chol habotzeya harei zechoteh, v'chol hamevarich et habotzeya harei ze min ha'etz, ve'al ze ne'emar botzeya beirech mi'etz Hashem. So brings a pasuk from Tehillim, Botzeh berech ne'etz Hashem, right? God spurns one who is botzea, and it's mafarish the word botzea here to mean compromise, and to say compromise is a bad thing. Ella, rather, instead of compromise, yikov hadin et hahar. Rather, let justice tunnel through the mountain. Shene'emar ki mishpat Elohim hu. Right, as it says, mishpat Elohim hu, God deals justly, God deals fairly. Din emet lamito, we want the truth. Why mediate when we can litigate? V'chein Moshe haya omer yikov hadin et hahar, says that in the name of Moshe. And now the Breita kind of turns in a slightly different direction, and it's unclear exactly what the end is doing here and what role Aaron HaKohen plays. Aval Aharon, says the Breita, and this is probably the most famous part. People don't usually remember the beginning. Aval Aharon ohev shalom v'rodef shalom. V'mesim shalom ben adam l'chavero. שנאמר תורת אמת הייתה בפיהו ועוולה לא נמצא בשפתיו בשלום ובמישור הלך איתי ורבים השיב מעוון. So Aharon, on the other hand, as opposed to Moshe, whose motto was Yikov hadin et hahar, may justice prevail, right? Justice, truth prevail. Aharon wanted peace, and he would be mesim shalom ben adam l'chavero. He would, right? This reminds us of all the midrashim of Aharon running to people on two sides of a conflict, right? And quotes a pasuk here, Torah emet hayta b'fihu, right? A pasuk that is coming to modify a kohen. It's a pasuk from the Achronim, I believe, Malachi. And right, Aharon HaKohen is the one who's being modified by this pasuk, which is to say that he was, as opposed to saying Yikov hadin et hahar, he was ohev shalom v'rodef shalom. Now, right, the question that Rashi and Tosafot are going to be dealing with is, okay, so on the one hand, we have the model of Moshe, the Yikov hadin et hahar model, and on the other hand, we have the model of Aharon, right? On one hand, Peshara, botzea, is presented as a bad thing. On the other hand, we have Aaron HaKohen here, it seems to be lauded. So the question is, how do we, right, and these two things are juxtaposed within the same breita. So how are we supposed to be miyashev between really these two ways of thinking about pshara? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? So both Rashi and Tosafot are going to find different ways of explaining, right, in which cases pshara is appropriate and in what situations pshara is not appropriate. So Rashi, aval Aharon ohev shalom v'rodef shalom. וכיוון שהיה שומע מחלוקת ביניהם קודם שיבואו לפניו לדין, היה רודף אחרינו ומציע שלום ביניהם. So what is Rashi? What are the important three words in this Rashi? The kodem she'avo ladin. Aaron too was a dayan, like Moshe. Both of them were judging cases. When you get to court, pshara is not okay. When you get to court, right, Yikov hadin et hahar, judges in their role as judge are supposed to, right, once you get to court, are supposed to enforce strict legal justice. But what's Aaron doing? He's making it so that nobody ever has to get to that point, right? Mediation is what you do before litigation, according to Rashi, right? We're talking about two separate stages. So there's a stage at which the conflict hasn't yet reached Beit Din, in which even the judge should attempt to help the parties reach a peaceful compromise, right? Compromise is ideal. And the b'diavad case where they can't compromise and eventually they get to court. So at that point, the judge's role is not to try to find some sort of compromise, but at that role, the judge is supposed to say, "Mikol adin tahar," right? The judge should rule according to the truth, justice, rather than compromise. Tosfot, on the other hand, draws the distinction a little bit differently. He doesn't say it's a distinction. He doesn't say it's a temporal distinction. One, that the first stage is the attempt to mediate, the attempt to be rodef shalom ve'ohev shalom, and then once you get to court, justice. Rather, Tosfot says, "Aval aharon pirush kivan shelo haya dayan velo haya din balafanav elafi Moshe vaday l'didei shari." So, if you're a judge, according to Tosfot, Moshe, who is judging cases, right, the litigants come before him, and right, for him, what he has to do is enforce strict justice. Aaron wasn't a judge. He had his place, and his place was trying to make it the case that court cases justice didn't have to happen. He had a separate role, right? There's a sort of separation of powers here according to Tosfot. Different people have different domains, right? And that maybe strict justice is what we do in court. But some people, that's not their job. And to end people who, right, there's a difference between a litigator and a mediator, according to the opinion of Tosfot, right? In the world of justice, compromise is not okay. Right? Once we're in the world of court, and again, it's not a matter of time, but it's a matter of what domain we're in. Right? Compromise is a distortion of justice. But then there's the real world, the rest of life, in which compromise is certainly allowed, if not even ideal. So that's the first machloket in Rashi and Tosfot in terms of how they understand the role of the judge, right? For Tosfot, right, the Aaron wasn't a judge, and therefore, right, a judge's his role is to rule truthfully. Yikova dina tahar. Compromise, on the other hand, is permitted outside of court, but doing justice, right? Like once you're in court, real litigation is ideal. We want Yikova dina tahar. We want din emet. According to Rashi, on the other hand, no, the ideal is compromise. Litigation is b'diavad. You only get to court if you didn't if the first stage, which even the judges, right, even Aaron has a role in, didn't work, right? Aaron, he was both judge, sorry, it says just there, but both judge and mediator, and the judge's task is to prevent, right, if he can, to prevent litigants even from getting to court. Once you get to court, okay, all the other options have run out. It's sort of a last resort in conflict resolution, and at that point, you can't compromise. Sure, that's machloket Rashi Tosfot number one. The sugya continues, though, and then we see another, I think, even more interesting diuk in Rashi and Tosfot that actually totally flips the sugya on its head. So the Gemara, right, we had that Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yossi about, right, those two psukim, right, Botzeh b'rifni and the Eitz Hashem and Moshe Yikov Adin Hahar on the one hand, and then Aharon Rodef Shalom Torah Lamed Haytav B'Fiv on the other hand. And now the Gemara is going to say all of this is pliga de Rabbi Tanchum bar Chanilai. So this is all right. That whole thing that we saw is cholik on the opinion of Rabbi Tanchum bar Chanilai, who brings a midrash about Aharon Kohen. The Amar Rabbi Tanchum bar Chanilai lo ne'amar mikraze ela keneged maaseh ha'egel. That pasuk was actually talking about maaseh ha'egel, about the sin of chet ha'egel, in which we know that Aaron HaKohen was a important character, right? He was the one who, in the end, agreed and encouraged Am Yisrael to build the egel. So Rabbi Tanchum bar Chanilai is describes a midrash on that story. Shne Amar vayar Aharon vayiven mizbeach lefanav. So he is right. The pasuk says Aaron saw and he built a mizbeach, but it's not clear from the pshat of the story in Shmot what it was that Aaron saw. So the midrash, jumping on this little textual oddity, says Mara'a, what did Aaron see? So Amar Rabbi Binyamin bar Yefet, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Ra'ach chor shezavuach lefanav. So according to the midrash, Aaron had been there with Chor, and they had originally asked Chor to help, and he had refused. And Am Yisrael had killed Chor, who was a Navi. Amar, so Aaron said to himself, he did a little bit of shikul in his head. So Amar ilo shaman alehu. If I don't listen to them, if I don't agree to build this mizbeach, They're going to kill me like they killed four. But Aaron, right, it wasn't a matter of trying to save his own skin, according to this midrash. What was so scary about the idea that they might kill him? So, thinks Aaron. Umikayin bi im yehareg b'mikdash Hashem kohen v'navi. Right, that this pasuk in the Navi, right, the Navim Achronim, describes a case in which, right, describes the situation of Am Yisrael having killed b'mikdash Hashem kohen v'navi, killing a kohen and navi in mikdash Hashem, and in that case, Am Yisrael is doomed according to the Navi, and Aaron is worried about the fact that pasuk might be fulfilled, because what does Aaron say to himself? If that happens, they'll never be able to do tshuva ever. So mutav de le'avdu le'egel. So better that they should serve the egel. Ve'efshar havya lehu takanta b'tshuva. So if they serve avodah zarah, it's less bad than yehareg mikdash kohen v'navi, because they serve avodah zarah, they can do tshuva. So really, it's not because he's trying to save his own skin. Aaron has in his mind, right, that he wants them to be able to do the less bad thing. So better to be part of the less bad sin, avodah zarah, than to stand his ground and have them worship and have them kill him, which would be an even worse sin. So Aaron here is doing some kind of pshara in this moment of Chet HaEgel, doing some kind of pshara, making some kind of compromise. Better that I take part in, I let them sin in a slightly less bad way. And then so that's what Aaron was doing. Aaron was doing some kind of pshara. Now the question is, right, the previous stuff we saw about Moshe, Aaron, right, all that is not according to Rabbi Chanilai, because Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chanilai, because Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chanilai darshaned this pasuk as referring to that story. Now, what's this pasuk? There were two psukim that we quoted in the earlier Breita that Rabbi Yossi Bar Rabbi Eliezer Bar Rabbi Yossi quoted, and Rashi and Tosafot are going to have a machloket about which pasuk Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chanilai is referring to. So, according to Rashi, which pasuk is understood to describe Aaron's actions? Mikra zet ubotzea berech. So, the pasuk that says botzea berech li'etz Hashem, meaning God spurns one who compromises, was meant to describe this story, right? Ela k'neged ma'aseh ha'egel, right? She'asa Aharon pshara beino levin atzmo, says Rashi, right? And this was the story of Aaron doing pshara with himself. V'hora heter la'atzmo la'asot lahem et ha'egel, and he permitted himself to allow them and even to help them build the egel. So according to Rashi, right, what did Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi say before? He said, sure, we have botzeh berech, often compromise is bad, but Aaron's different. Aaron, right, but Rodef Shalom, Vohev Shalom, Aaron was great at pshara in general. And Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chanilai is going to say, no. Aaron also bad. Aaron's derech of Ohev Shalom, Rodef Shalom, in this, right, so Aaron's nitiyah pshara, let's put it that way, Aaron's general tendency to compromise, that's also bad. And botzeh berech ne'etz Hashem, right, the idea that one who compromises is spurned by, right, God spurns one who compromises, is coming to describe Aaron in the story of Chet HaEgel. Aaron thought that he was doing a good thing by trying to compromise, trying to make Am Yisrael sin less badly. Turns out God did not like that. The story of Chet HaEgel, right, Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chanilai is going to be critical of Aharon HaKohen. Tosafot, on the other hand, what does he say? Akra de Torat and Metkai. What pasuk is coming to describe Aaron? The Aaron in this story of Chet HaEgel? The pasuk of Torat and Met. You thought, Rabbi Eliezer Bar Rabbi Yossi, that when the Torah was praising Aaron, that when the Navi was praising Aaron, it was praising Aaron for, running around in general and trying to make shalom between people, right? The people were getting fights, and he would try to make peace between them. No, the pasuk that's coming to praise Aaron for Peshara is coming to praise an even more extreme case. The case where Aharon HaKohen was asab psharo beino levin atzmo, where he looked at Am Yisrael, saw that they were about to do this really, really super horrible sin, and said better that they should serve the egel, avodah zarah, another pretty horrible sin, than that they should kill me. And the Torah Emet Tavifihu is coming to modify or to describe that story, right? Akra de Torah Emet Kai k'dichtiv b'seifa v'rabim hushiv me'avon, right? The end of that pasuk, Torah Emet Tavifihu, is v'rabim hushiv me'avon. He saved the masses from sin, And that really the moral of the story, according to Reb Tanchum Bar Chanilai, the moral of the Aaron story is that Aaron in helping them build the Egel, saved Am Yisrael from their certain doom. Right. So for Rashi, the pasuk Uvotzeh Bereich is coming to describe the story of Beit HaEgel, and the sugya is critical of Aharon for making the Egel, or Tarnum Bar Chanilai is critical of Aharon for making the Egel. Whereas for Tosafot, the pasuk Torah Emet is coming to describe the actions of Beit HaEgel, and the sugya is praising Aaron for making the Egel. Just a quick note: the Meiri tries to explain the shita of Rashi that says that the one that's critical of Aharon HaKohen for making the Egel according to based on this pasuk of Uvotzeh Bereich, right? Then in what cases, if what Aaron did was so bad, in what cases is Peshara appropriate, or do Aaron's actions earlier, right, in the earlier Breita, is that really, are those also considered to be bad? So according to the Meiri here, Afal Pisha Peshara nivcheret le'inyan dinei mamanot le'inyan isur eino pain. So what's Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chanilai coming to say? Sure, Peshara can be fine at this, right? Again, if we're in the world of Rashi, it's even ideal, right? And litigation is only a last resort, all that, but only when it comes to dinei mamanot. When it comes to monetary disputes, sure, you want people to compromise. That's fine. They can come to some sort of middle ground. But when it comes to isurin and okay, we can't say, right? What's the big lesson of the Aaron HaKohen story, according to Rashi, at Aliba de Meiri, is what? That even if Peshara is good or ideal when it comes to interpersonal conflict, when it comes to Kal Pishmai, when it comes to the ways that when it comes to our service of God, you don't compromise in service of God. You don't say, oh, I'm gonna, or any, especially a dayan. You can't say, I know that everyone is gonna be Machal Shabbos, so let's just be matir being Machal Shabbos in this like slightly less bad way, right? That's not what it means to really demand something of ourselves and of our communities in our Avodat Hashem. So that's the Meiri's in his explanation in the world of Rashi. So just to kind of zoom out for a second in terms of the bigger picture that we see in Rashi and Tosafot on the sugya. So Rashi, Peshara, according to the Meiri, Peshara is intended only for monetary cases. It can even be ideal there. And the sugya, the earlier part of the sugya was talking about a judge on monetary cases, whereas for Tosafot, right, which praises Aaron HaKohen in Gefet Gemara, right, Peshara is compromise is sometimes important, even when it comes to the biggest, scariest questions in Avodat Hashem. Even right, sometimes we really just have what it means to be honest with ourselves and our communities is to understand that human beings aren't perfect, and that sometimes the best that we can do is, in fact, the best that we can do. And sugya is talking about really leaders in all areas of Torah, not only judges in Choshen and Mishpat, but even when it comes to who and what and how we worship God. So hope that this sugya has given us a little bit of food for thought about what it means to balance emet on the one hand and reality on the other, about thinking about what the role of compromise might be in public life, in private religious spiritual life, and in our general kind of our general interpersonal interactions. Thank you so much, and see you next week.